Testing, testing, test, testing, testing. Is it sending to testing, testing? We're just testing it real quick. Yeah. Oh, okay. Can you hear me? Testing.
Are we ready?
Testing, testing. All right. Cool. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Daniel Little, ASUN Director of Elections, and I'd like to thank you all for attending tonight. So tonight's debate will be comprised of the presidential and presidential candidates. The vice presidential candidate is Anthony Martinez, and vice presidential candidate is Nicole Flangas. Please refrain from booing out of respect for the candidates, and please no flash photography. We will have a moderator here tonight to facilitate this debate. The moderator will be asking these questions to the candidates. So without further ado, I now give the stage to tonight's moderator, Vice President of Administration and Finance, Vic Redding.
Good evening, Vic Redding. Thank you for having me here. I've been very much looking forward to this. Vice President of Administration and Finance, but more importantly, proud alum of UNR 2000 MBA. So you all have all of my admiration for doing this on top of a full course load. So with that, maybe a brief introduction and then why you chose to spend this next year with such an increased workload.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony Martinez. I'm a dual major in political science and international affairs. I also have a minor in Spanish language and society. And I think Nicole and I can touch on our goals in just a bit, but I'll let her introduce herself first.
Yeah, so hi guys. My name is Nicole Flangas. I'm also a junior here at the university studying political science with minors in business administration and Spanish. And I'm running for vice president of the Associated Students, so very exciting. I guess we can touch on a little bit like why we chose these positions. Again, touching back to why we decided to run in the first place. Anthony and I have always served in this university in some kind of service role. So we started in residential life, serving on RHA, serving for their organization where they have students talking about event planning and about policy within the buildings. That was our first step. Then we moved into ASUN as senators for the College of Liberal Arts, and he served as pro temp and I served as the chair for civic engagement, and honestly that was the best year of my time here at the university. I really enjoyed the service component of serving for ASUN and working on behalf of the students, and I learned so much about actually what ASUN is capable of achieving. We have a platform that allows us to really create sizable change not only on campus but in our community, and I think that's kind of gave me a taste for everything that I want to do later in life, and so I really enjoyed that past year. But I guess you can touch on currently.
Yeah, so currently I serve as Speaker of the Senate for the Associated Students, and I would have to say I think the best part of it all is just being able to work with President Jackson currently, Vice President Bradley, being able to work with all the senators, especially my current pro temp. I think they're all amazing, and I think the collaboration that I've seen amongst all those individuals has really inspired me to move further up within the association. Just seeing the projects and the individuals that they get to work with is unbelievable. And now I'm currently here, and I just couldn't be any more excited to not only, carry on hopefully a new legacy along with Nicole Flangas, but hopefully to carry on their legacy, because what they've already left behind and what they've established, I think is amazing. And the environment that they've built not only for our association, but for our students to feel welcomed, I think is a pretty amazing thing to have. And I just would love to carry that on and to hopefully pass that on to the next individuals that take office in 2020.
Great. No, I think you're absolutely correct. As somebody who sits on President Johnson's cabinet and often attends his meetings with student government leadership, can certainly attest to the very strong voice that ASUN does have in the operations and strategic planning of this university, and what a great opportunity to bring the students' voice to that forum and make sure it's heard. So I do have a list of prepared questions, but would like this to be a little bit of an interactive dialogue, so feel free to expand or take it into a slightly different direction. But starting with some of the current events on campus and things that are going on. Actually, just this morning, got the results to date of the campus climate survey. And I saw that the undergraduate response rate is somewhere around 13.6%. Our goal was 30%. We're in the last week of that survey. Help me interpret that response rate. What do you read into that, and what can we do to incentivize more response?
I think with that, for the students in the campus climate survey, just even looking at it, students already are struggling to find responses for the survey. So I'm trying to.
I think one of the symptoms, perhaps, of the low response rate is that a lot of students have felt like they've voiced a lot of opinions, and we host town halls. We bring forth our students in the Colleges of Arts. Our dean hosted a town hall. But I think some of the problem is that a lot of students feel like there hasn't been as much action as they would have liked to see. They also don't get to see all the moving parts, though. So I think some of the things that we want to do together is we want to kind of uncover what the university is doing and provide that input and that feedback about what's going on to students more directly, more often, creating an environment so they know that there is something in progress. There are these committees working on change, and that they are working to create proactive responses to this. We've also, though, been in a reactionary state a bit in these past 2 years, just with all the things that have happened on campus. So I think some of it is that they're not seeing as much increased change and as much action as they'd like to see. But also, what we can do is we can talk about the importance of providing that data, because that data is what leads to the physical changes that we can create. It creates an environment where we have a base of student feedback for the things that we want to create. So I think in this last week, we as individuals, as people running for office, we have a job to get as many students motivated to want to answer these questions, to want to be part of addressing the campus climate. And it's okay to address the climate as something not positive or something you don't see as much of something you'd like to see. So it's about being honest about what's your truth. Speak your truth. It's a beautiful message. So we want as many students to do that as possible. And then hopefully, something that I'd like to see is how we can respond in the next fall about what we learned from that survey and what are we doing? What are we doing with that information? So hopefully that will then make people want to reply to these surveys and be part of that process even more so.
Yeah, and I think with that, when hearing, it sounds like sometimes it always falls a lot on student government and students, but I think it also is something to deal with administrations and teachers. I can tell you right now, when it comes to teachers in my classroom talking about speak your truth, none of my professors have addressed this once, whereas I have been the one to stand up in class and say, hey, everyone, don't forget to, fill out the survey. It's very important for students to fill this out, but this isn't like a student thing. This is a university item that we should be addressing. So university not only encompasses students, it encompasses faculty and staff and teachers, our professors. So hopefully getting them or enticing them in these last few moments that we have, so whether that's enacting the students that we have currently working on these efforts to incentivize teachers or just remind them hey, we're not all ASUN officers or students engaged in creating this survey are in your classroom. We really need you to get this out to your students in order to get the best feedback possible in order for us to move forward as an institution.
Great. All right, I appreciate that. Thank you. Just want to switch gears a little bit. As the finance guy, you knew it wouldn't spend very long before I started talking about finances and dollars and cents and of course student fees. And I remember many years writing that check to Nelnet for student loans, but You know, the Board of Regents approved a 4% fee increase for registration fees for both years of next biennium. And I really compliment the outgoing ASUN leadership for taking such a active role in those discussions and really leading it system-wide. But as we talk about registration fees, give me your thoughts. Too high, too low, just right? How price sensitive are students? What do you hear?
Yeah, I would have to say, everyone always goes back to the question, and I heard this during one of the earlier debates, affordable higher education, and the reality is it's not. It's pretty expensive out there, and it's starting to become something for middle-class individuals, middle-class students to afford. Loans are sometimes inevitable for students, so I think it's important to not always sugarcoat these options for students, and saying like, oh, you can do it, don't worry. Like sometimes you need to be upfront with them, like there may need to be a loan taken out, but don't worry, there are student resources on campus that can assist you. So I think just being forward and upfront with students and the cost that, tuition is rising. And it's a serious conversation to have, and it affects a lot of students. So I would say right now, we're looking at, tuition rising, and we do inform students about that, and, not always sugarcoat it for them, because sometimes that can be difficult, and hearing in one ear, like, oh, I can afford this, I was told this, and then going to actually pay the bill, and you're like, wait, this bill is not something I can afford. So I think that's always just something to keep in mind when talking to students about, affordable higher education.
And as you respond to that, I just want to add one more nuance to it. I've always thought of registration fees as just part of the equation. The second, just as important part, is financial aid. Nevada's always been a little bit behind the curve, especially on need-based financial aid. What do you hear about that as the constraint?
Yeah, so for one thing, just for the first component, I think also educating our students about all of the fees and what goes into the fee, because you read technology fee and you're not really sure what that is, but also some students don't utilize fully what their technology fee encompasses. So it's talking about maybe creating an educational campaign about what are each of the fees and what does it include that it's paying for and how can you best utilize it. So that way students feel like they're getting a return on their education, as well as creating affordability with the resources that we have, including the books that you have to buy, the programs you have to use for your classes. We've definitely been talking about this with the outgoing administration, with current senators, and we want to keep that conversation alive about creating resources that students can use that are affordable, and maybe creating a bookshare program. That's something we've talked about. So it's definitely looking at alleviating those costs. But in terms of oh, sorry, what was the second part of your question? I didn't want to miss it, and now I forgot.
Talk to me about how Nevada's lack of need-based financial aid impacts this discussion.
I have a good part to this. Okay, so actually, I'm a transfer student, and one of the big frustrations with transfer students is that you do not qualify for any incoming aid when you come here, and there's only very, very specific need-based aid, and you have to qualify for Pell Grant status to get any aid, and you can apply by the February 1st deadline. But that gives an entire semester or sometimes year for those who come in the fall before they can apply for any financial aid. They're coming into this university, they're paying full tuition of whatever, in-state, out-of-state, and there's no financial aid for them. So that's a big part of affordability, especially for our students who are going from other NSHE institutions and coming here. We need to create infrastructure for them, including financial aid, because that's a big hurdle, not only affording housing, but also these nuanced fees that you have no idea about. So that's a first part, is I'm really looking at transfer students and how we can address that inequity level. But with the rest of our students, we definitely created legislation this year that we've wanted to create more need-based scholarships in the state of Nevada, so kind of prompting the state of Nevada to be an active component in that. But on a university level, I think maybe working with our alumni to create more scholarships for our students, just talking about the increase in tuition, how it's going up every year, how it has to go up every year, and talking about the difference of what they paid when they went to college to what it is now, because I think sometimes you blink twice when you realize how much it's gone up. So those are just a couple ideas.
Yes, I do. and along those lines, let me ask you a question about the Millennium Scholarship. I'm old enough to remember when the Millennium Scholarship was created by and Governor Gwynn, very strong force behind that. But as you mentioned, fees have gone up every year, and then by definition, the Millennium has lost a lot of its purchasing power. How strong of an incentive do you feel the Millennium Scholarship is for keeping the best and brightest students in Nevada in Nevada?
I know the Millennium, especially right now, is a very interesting question, especially with something that we had just passed through Senate, talking about changing the requirements in order for students to receive the Millennium Golden Scholarship. So with that, I know it does support a lot of students and a lot of individuals in order to attend the university. And, you know, I'm sorry, could you restate the question?
Well, and kind of comes down to if you were in the legislature and you had to make Sophie's choice, do you put more money into the Millennium because its purchasing power has fallen off, or do you put more money into need-based financial aid? If you had to make that balance, where would you be?
So in between like merit and need-based, I definitely feel a need for need-based. When looking at a lot of the scholarships being offered here at the institution, merit-based is huge. You know, in regards to academics, how students do in their classes in high school, and I feel like a lot of times we don't take into consideration where people are coming from when it comes to high school. You don't know the areas or the materials that they were given, really not, you know, allowing them to showcase their academic ability, or they maybe weren't given the same resources as individuals in other parts of Clark County or Washoe County or whichever state they're coming from. So that need-based, I think, is very important for a lot of our students who aren't able to showcase to receive those merit-based scholarships. And even then, if individuals are both to qualify for merit and need, I feel as if that's even better, because then, as you had stated before, we're keeping some of our brightest and, you know, hardest working students.
I also think if we're coming down to the decision of putting more money into the Millennium or putting more money into need-based, this institution already does a really good job of providing tiered-based scholarships to our incoming freshmen. So maybe in the interest of creating financial responsibility in the state, looking at those need-based scholarships now, and then in the future looking towards the Millennium, because the University of Reno does have that power to offer that presidential and then the secondary level and the third level to those incoming freshmen. But I think if we're going to try to not lose transfer students, we're going to have to start employing the same technique.
No, great analysis. It's a complex issue. Yeah. Speaking of fees, just want to narrow it down a little bit to the ASUN budget, which, as you know, comes from student fees. And tell me some of your ideas about the budget, about its level. Is it the right level? Is it funding the right activities? Increase revenue, reduce spending? Give me some of your forecasts on the budget.
I would always love more money, of course. But as of right now, when I'm looking at the budget, I definitely think it's something to take into consideration of where we're moving funds, if we're going to be cutting funds, but it's all dependent on students and their registration here at the university. So sometimes we may over budget in the sense that more students enrolled in credits, and then they drop out of those credits, they can't take those classes, or it doesn't fit their schedule, so then we over budgeted, or we end up under budgeting. But in regards to where they fit into specific programs now, and if it's correctly allocated, I would say that the administration this year, our student government administration, has done a great job in providing funds wherever they where they see fit. And I think they have now collected enough information and enough data for us this year to apply those changes that they see needed. So after them test running it, and they're like, all right, we're gonna see how this track works, and if it doesn't work, we're gonna advise the people next year to make those changes. So I think it's just a matter of waiting on what this year's administration has to offer to us and saying hey, we did this test run, didn't go too hot, so we suggest this. So I think that's what we're waiting for mainly, is just talking with those individuals and figuring out where money is needed, or where it needs to be taken away from, or where it needs to be adjusted.
I also think this year's leadership, Vice President Bradley and President Jackson, have taught me a lot about where we've tied up ASUN funds and projects, but where they were only supposed to be pilot projects, where we demonstrate a really great project, and then we try to get the university or the community to take that on. So I think in understanding what they've been doing, we can now take that information that they're learning, that these projects are really successful, but we're just putting money in, and we're going to try to hand those off to the university, to the community, and I'm talking specifically about the PAC internship grant program. We really want to see that take off by itself, because that's what it was supposed to be. We're an organization that has the capability to try out a bunch of new projects, But when our money is tied up in old projects that were supposed to be taken on, we can't necessarily expand, we can't try new things. So that's one of the things is we're taking that information from this year, and we're gonna start hitting people with those hard contract finalizations. This should be something that the university should take on. This is something that the community should take on. We've demonstrated how great our students utilize it, how great our students actually go out in the community, so they should take that on, and that's a really big component. But in terms of raising the ASUN fee, I think that we really need to get more student feedback. We see the reason to raise the fee because it hasn't been raised in 6+ years. So we think that that's reasonable because with inflation, you have to raise the fee. But I think before we do that, we're gonna have to demonstrate to students that we are super responsible with that funding, that we're doing the right things, and then maybe look towards the future after our year about raising the fee so that way they have more funding.
Great, I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's see here. As president, you'll have a seat on the Nevada Student Alliance, the NC-wide body where all student body presidents are represented. What type of statewide initiatives would you like to undertake during the next year and see move forward at a system level?
So I know currently President Jackson is working a lot with food insecurity and campus affordability. So I think those are initiatives that I would love to continue, especially since that's one of our platforms actually for campus sustainability in regards to, either getting students, involved or ensuring that they're fed for food insecurity and housing insecurity. So I think when it comes to initiating those like state policies, working with a different so those are the different, university presidents, working with them to see what their institutions and what initiatives they have started to best fit the needs of their students. So maybe some institution has, a wider need for students for food insecurity, and another institution has a wider need for students with housing insecurity. And hopefully, after this Speak Your Truth and other surveys that we've done, because I know there's a huge campus-wide survey going out now to all NC students to ask about food insecurity and housing insecurity. So I think that's even a greater platform to, work with other university presidents to figure out how we can accommodate for those students.
Great. So along the lines of collaborating with some of our sister institutions at NC, what are some of the areas that you might see some collaboration with peers at TMCC or WNC or even Great Basin College? What sort of interaction or complementary programs would you like to see there?
So again, I'm a transfer student. I'm going to keep plugging it. It's one of my favorite areas.
Where did you transfer from?
I transferred from USC in Southern California.
Okay.
But one of the things that I've learned, that we just had a transfer summit here actually last week with the leadership from all over the state of NC institutions. And I've learned that they have a really good program for getting those students ready to transfer to either UNLV or to here at our university. But sometimes our intake of those students is not as great as it can be. And they have a really good system for working with transfer students because they are preparing for them coming in from other colleges, but also preparing for them to go out. So I think learning from them about how they work with their transfer students, how they best advise them, and how they make sure that they're equipped with the right tools when they come here is one of the things we can learn from them. But I've also learned so much from TMCC specifically about students who are non-traditional. I was talking about how I love the gym, how we pay a fee to use the gym, but we get to use it unlimitedly. We get so many classes, it's great. And I had a student come up to me at this co-summit between transfer students all around the state, and she said, I think that gym is so cool, do you guys have a daycare program? And I'd never thought of that, and I'd never put that in my mind, but apparently TMCC does have a daycare program at their gym, not all the time, only a certain days during the week. But I think looking at the different programs that they have that we've not instituted on our campus and seeing, do we have enough students that warrant that program, but also why aren't we doing that program? Is it about funding, or is it just that we haven't thought about that spot on our campus? And so learning about what they're doing has been really eye-opening in the context of transfer students, because that's what I've been working on, but I'm sure that expands to many different areas.
Right. Appreciate that. So just switching gears here a little bit to the research mission of this university, and just a few weeks ago, the University of Nevada, Reno, as well as UNLV, were recognized as R1. What does that mean to ASUN, and where do you see that taking us?
So we currently have NSERC, the Nevada State Undergraduate Research Journal. So I think that is an important very important aspect for where the student government plays a role. So being research and funding all of this, students should do the research here at the university is so important. Not only that, we also are working with NSearch, from what I've known, to hopefully do a broad research for students here at the university. And again, this is with student government fees. So in regards to how ASUN plays a role in the R1, I think for the Nevada State Undergraduate Research Journal is a huge role. Do you have? Yeah.
I was reading through the Carnegie designation application, and I saw in there that there's specifically, I think it was around, don't quote me on it, but I think it was around $10,000 was set aside for research specifically catered towards civic engagement in our campus community and in the Reno community. So I think one of the cool things that ASUN can do is advertise that to our students, educate them that this money is out there, and then maybe work with them on their projects, because I think working with the community is something that we are so motivated to do. We want to see so much community engagement in the next year, but we want our students to motivate how that money goes towards, like what kind of projects it goes towards, how's that money being spent, and then we want to be there to advocate, work with them however we can possible, because if they're doing research on our Reno community, we want to be there, we want to learn from them, we want to get all their input, and we want to utilize that in our programming, in our initiatives. Like, it's so cool that we have that earmarked, so why not advertise it and work with those students who are obviously really engaged with the Reno community.
Right. All right. Let's see. So kind of along those lines, the university is already, is also on its way to becoming a Hispanic serving institution, an HSI. What specific ideas do you have on how ASUN would play a part in that and help the university achieve that goal as well?
So as a Hispanic serving institution, I think that, goes back into working with a lot of clubs and organizations on campus that identify under that category, which actually isn't very many, because I've actually done research on this myself. So either encouraging individuals to start a club, or going back to talking with the director of clubs and organizations to encourage students like, hey, this is a possibility, and as an HSI, rising institution, we have the ability to now engage a lot of those students. So I think it's important to not only, offer them a space, but remind them like, hey, you can start your own club designated in this specific area. And that's just from what ASUN can do from our perspective. I think also working with our Department of Diversity and Inclusion, so using them or utilizing them to showcase to students as an HSI, we need to ensure that the funds that are being implemented within this institution are actually being used to serve Hispanic students in the best way possible for them to be successful here at the university. So I think encouraging that department to really work with our university officials to either, design programs, start programming, or even bring it to conversations like, hey, how is this serving our students to the best of their needs, is very important. It is something that, that department can do. And in addition to that, our Department of Clubs and Organizations can also be active in that situation of starting up a lot of those clubs to incentivize students, to remind them that there is a space for them here on campus.
I also think one of the things that we can really work on is creating more bilingual advertisement for our on-campus events, because some of them are for the community, but also if you're relaying information about the events that you're going to back home, you want everyone in your family to know, what are you doing at the university, what is your university doing? So creating bilingual advertising and creating more bilingual components to our events, I think could be a really cool first step for ASUN to say, hey, we recognize that this is the movement, we want to be part of it, we want to create programming that reflects that, but I also think that by putting out programming and advertisements, newsletters that are in both Spanish and English, we show them that we're recognizing that they're here, that we want them to come to our events, that this is the space for them. So I think setting the tone with all of our papers, all of our governing documents, everything being bilingual can kind of demonstrate to the university the steps that they should be taking as well. So we can kind of lead the charge.
So along those lines, this university is just a key part of northern Nevada, the city of Reno, Sparks, Washoe County. What are some of the things that ASUN can do to engage the community outside of these 200 acres that we call the main campus?
I'll let the Reno local maybe take the head on this one.
He's been talking first every time, so I have time to come up with my answer. But I think I think that engaging with the Reno community, for me, and the context of my experience within ASUN and with my degree, has been civic and political engagement. So I really would love to see our students get engaged with local nonprofits, get engaged with activism, and also know what those issues are in the Reno community, because there is the issue of homelessness is not singular just to our university students, it's in the Reno community as well. So I think hosting dialogues, hosting events where we can bring community members as well as on-campus students to talk about those issues and talk about problem solving as a collective body is a really cool first step. We can have these deliberative, facilitated dialogues about our first step moving forward, and then also we can check back up periodically throughout the year to make sure we're working on activism, working on engagement, that kind of stuff, and really creating connections between our community and our students. But that's just the civic engagement aspect. There's so many other aspects. There's the business aspect, so it's creating incentives for our students to want to go out and invest in the community, but also making that a little bit more affordable for our students. We can always advocate for that. So those are just a few ideas, but I think the opportunities are endless. I would love to see more and more businesses offer internships for our students. The PAC internship grant program is something that I'll get to directly oversee if I get the position, all fingers crossed. And I think that I really want to see more people adopt that model and have more students working in their businesses. It's really something that our students are very good at. They're committed, they work hard, so why not try to get more and more businesses trying to get that relationship with our students and creating the more internships, because that's what students want to see.
And I would love to just work more with high schools here. I know a lot of students are alum to, speech and debate, different athletics, student council. We the People is huge here in Reno, and we have a lot of individuals from there attend this university. So I think, collaborating more with high school students and university events, I think is so important. And what college student doesn't love to think about, their high school debate days, their We the People days, their, athletic career that they used to have. And I think that's just a great way to get, not only our university students involved, but those younger high school students involved as well. And hopefully that'll not only build retention for them to maybe come to the university, but for them to at least attend a higher ed institution. I think that's important and something that we can instill in a lot of students here in the Washoe County School District.
Great. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Good at enrolling them, but let's talk about completions. I kind of have the view that some college doesn't really get a student where they need to be, get some debt, but you don't have that degree or certificate or credential that you can then bring to the market. So what's the single biggest or the top two bottlenecks that you hear about for student completion?
I think it usually goes back to money, but at the same time, I think it always goes back to support. Always finding that network, finding your, niche of individuals. And I think, clubs and organizations are so powerful. Individuals are so powerful. So making that one connection for someone to just incentivize you to finish your degree or to go here or to show up to class every single day is so vital for students. And I will just always push clubs and organizations because I think it's so important for individuals to have a group or for someone to go to. I'm a part of various here on campus, and I've had many jobs on campus, which have allowed me to make strong connections with individuals. And with those connections, I wouldn't feel incentivized to come to campus every day. I feel as if sometimes, and then I start to build relationships in classes where your friends are like, "I didn't see you in class today. Like they took attendance," and I'm like, "Oh, I wasn't there." And I think that starts to build kind of reliability and accountability for these students. And just these clubs and organizations are so important for individuals to become a part of because they then feel incentivized like, well, if all my friends are finishing their degree and I have the possibility to finish my degree and, they're always reaching out to say like, I can help you with this, why am I not doing that? So I think that's one of the most important aspects of students dropping out is they don't have that support.
Connection.
The connection.
I also think this ties back to one of our actual platform goals that we're working with, and that's the fourth goal of kind of this pre-professional advising. And so my vision for what that would look like is that we're having alumni and community members come in and host conversations about how did I become a CEO? How did I get there? What were the steps that I got there? And then what are the problem areas that you should work on? Is it interview skills? Is it creating personal statements? And I think talking to people who have the positions and talking about how did you get here, how did you do this, will create a plan of attack for our students. So for students who maybe feel like this isn't the right step or they're lost, looking at someone, looking at how they got there and seeing that completing college and then what's afterwards, what do you have to keep doing, can kind of help them with that motivation to finish. So that's a big part of it. But I also know Anthony and I were orientation guides for 2 summers. We worked extensively with new students, but the biggest part that we learned is that when you feel connected to your community through involvement, through communicating with your professors, that's what matters. And so we're going to keep doing that push at Nevada Fit. We want to work really closely with them this year if possible, and at orientation, that when you join our clubs and organizations, when you talk to your professor and you create a relationship, you do want to carry out your entire completion here at the university. I also know that we can send out surveys to the students who leave and try to figure out what was it that made them leave. Was it a lack of resources? Was it a lack of time? Was it a lack of money? And then we can start problem shooting those areas.
Great. How does the initiative 15 to finish or 30 to complete, a variety of different names, but basically taking the full load every semester, how does that impact what you just said? Is that a place that we should focus our efforts?
I think it definitely excludes a certain amount of individuals, our non-traditional students. Of course, a lot of students are able to take that load if we have, the common student saying. So, they'll do the 15 to complete, 30 to finish. But sometimes we don't look at students who maybe have a family who, have to work 3 jobs in order to pay for school, or even our students with disabilities who are physically, they're saying like, I cannot do this, I cannot handle this, my body will not allow me to complete these courses. So I think that policy in a way can definitely deter a lot of individuals who are not traditional students. And traditional by that, I mean, leave high school, usually you have 1 job, or, you're living on campus your first year, and so on and so forth.
I also think one of the big frustrations that I personally suffer from, but also a lot of students struggle with, is they think one of the ways they can catch up is taking online classes, and over the winter break, over the summer. But our online classes require you to come in person to take your tests, and a lot of our students can't do that. They cannot be here over summer. They have a job to go back to, a family to go back to. They don't have housing, whatever it may be. So I think we really need to work on advocating for actually online classes for students that are motivated to want to finish but can't stay here over the summer, can't stay here over winter break. I know it creates a lot of bureaucratic confusion, and I know that 365 has those policies for a reason, but I also know that creating an actual online class for students to utilize would make a big difference for a lot of students. And also, I just studied abroad. I would have loved to be able to take classes while I was abroad, but again, you have to be in person to take that test. So that's one of the things that I think would help a lot of our students, including those that can't afford to necessarily spend the time on campus. They have multiple jobs. So creating online classes that are actually online is something that I think we can work on to hopefully create more retention and actually those graduation rates within the 4 years.
Okay. So switching gears here a little bit, the 2019 legislature is in session right now. It's about a third of the way through. It's been my experience that the legislators would much rather hear from students than from administrators like me. So if you could tell the legislative body one thing about the university, what would that be? What would you want them to know or advocate for or support?
That's a huge question.
I mean, I think that the biggest thing that I would want to advocate for is creating more scholarship funding at the university, because I didn't choose to come to the University of Nevada, Reno. I left the state, and I didn't intend to come back here. It was actually a happy accident that I ended up back here. But I am so grateful to be here. I think this institution is so unique, so dynamic, with so many different trades. We actually talked about how we're not necessarily specialized in one degree, but that's what's great. When you come here, you can change your degree, you can find your place, and we have staff that's doing really amazing things on this campus that are really unique. But we don't do a very good job, I think, of advertising it as best we can. And I think one of the ways the state can really push to keep our students here is with scholarship funding. So I think that's where I would start. It's creating affordability and incentivizing our NSHE institutions, because I think our students really benefit when they come from this university, And I hear so many people tell us that they didn't realize all the things that Nevada had, that we had Pulitzer Prizes, that we have a leading expert in like African politics literally in the world on our campus. That kind of stuff is so unique, and we have a job to incentivize it.
Yeah. I would say something along the same lines. If anything, just kind of be different. I would advocate for, campus sustainability, not only on our campus, but on many campuses. I think it's important for our universities to try and take that lead or to take that step to remind our students like, hey, these are ways that we can not only preserve, the Reno area because it's beautiful here, like Tahoe's amazing and, all of the nature around us, but if we want to really preserve those areas and to preserve our community, sustainability, I feel as if is an effort we really need to start to push to our legislatures to remind them, like, we have a lot of students on this campus. We have nearly 20,000. Imagine how much waste is being produced by all of these students, 3,000 that live here, 24 hours a day. So I think incentivizing them or finding a way to either, work more with universities to provide, campus dining to be more sustainable, to work more with, composting on campus, working with, facilities to talk more about how to recycle or informing students how to recycle. I know they came and talked to our Senate and they were informing us like, certain Starbucks cups cannot be recycled. I probably see around, 500 to 1,000 students a day in that Starbucks throwing away the same Starbucks cup that they had told us is not recyclable in the recyclable bin. Just imagine, just having that educational campaign put out to students like, this is what you can recycle and this is what you cannot. Working with the on-campus Starbucks, even to just talk about, these are ways that you can recycle the items that are given to you today by our, business. And I think those little steps will go a long way, not only for our university, but for our Reno area, for our Reno community.
Great, okay. So the elections will occur. We'll be sitting around maybe 100 days after the elections. You'll be looking back. What will you have hoped you accomplished in those first 100 days?
I would hope that we accomplish the ability to actually, and this is what a lot of students are asking us, and this is what we were probably just asked by student groups, which is to recruit either diverse perspectives or diverse students into our, whether that be cabinet or working with diverse students in the least to plan future projects. But I think it's important for students to feel included within our student government. I want them to be able to come into our offices and to voice when they're angry at us. I want them to tell us, like, this event that you planned is horrible, and this is why, X, Y, and Z. I no longer want to hear through the grapevine, like, oh, we were told that this program you planned is really bad, and it did all of these horrible things, and there's no student to back that up. And we have no idea who it came from, and we have no way to actually address the problem. So I hope to create that environment for students to actually feel welcomed, for our student government officers to also know that we are here to build a welcoming environment for individuals to feel comfortable to go to. So that would just, again, go back to making students feel welcome to voice their opinions to our student government officers to better plan after those 100 days for the rest of the school year and hopefully for the rest of the year.
Anthony's answer was wonderful. I think that's the great part, is that we do get to kind of change the climate of how ASUN is perceived, and that's something that we're going to really work on. But just in the context of vice president, I guess that I'll say, with the PAC internship grant program, I really want to work on weaning them off ASUN funding, and I know that the summer poses a really interesting time because we're able to have conversations with so many staff, so many faculty members, and the community, because we aren't in school. We have a little bit of time off to kind of start those conversations. So I want to set the precedent that ASUN really did these great programs, including PAC provisions, including the PAC internship grant program, but they were meant to start self-sustaining. And so I want to create strategic plans about how they're going to start self-sustaining. And I know that's not a this year plan, but I want to create a firm deadline and a very thorough strategic plan, so that way the next administration can come in and they have that money to start those new programs and new initiatives that they have dreamed up for our university and campus. So that way ASU is catering to programming and initiatives that our students care about, and then we're not frozen with specific funding just attached to these programs every single year without fail, without any kind of readdressing, is this what we should be investing on? So I think that we're really going to go through those contracts, those commitments, and we're going to try to find the places where they can be funded, so that way ASUN has so much potential in the future.
So speaking of financial forecasting, the Nevada Wolf Shop is one of the last student-owned bookstores in the country, and the bookstore model is changing. Strategically, where do you take the bookstore in the next year and set it up for a sustainable future?
I think with that, it's also important to note that I believe it's UCLA that has the other student bookstore. So when comparing them to our student bookstore, they're very different. Very much so polar opposites. UCLA, it's no secret, but they have that brand name. Individuals, and they have a bus stop that stops outside of their, student-owned bookstore where they can get off and everyone gets to buy, their sweaters and antiques and whatnot. And we just are not there yet. So when looking at our own bookstore and how to sustain it in the next years or so, it's a serious conversation of having to advertise to students like, hey, if we don't start, utilizing what we have here within the Wolf Shop, we are definitely looking at a serious conversation of how is this going to sustain itself.
It supports so many important programs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even then, our bookstore funds ASUN scholarships, and we give out thousands and thousands of dollars in scholarships. So I think we need to work with all the organizations, all the facets of how we work with new students to communicate that the Wolf Shop should be their first resource, that we have price matching, that kind of stuff. But I also think with affordability in mind, the reselling of used textbooks is something that I think the bookstore can kind of swivel to. We should encourage our students to sell their textbooks back and hopefully create affordable costs for students to be buying those textbooks, so it's creating affordability for the whole university, but also keeping the Wolf Shop part of it. So I think we need to do a really big marketing campaign to get our students to utilize the Wolf Shop's buyback and try to get students to come and buy them from those stores, because if we can show that the Wolf Shop has what they need and that it is a worthy investment every time you go in, I think more and more students will go. But I think we have to start with our incoming students, because that's the population that's looking for where to go anyways. So why don't we make the Wolf Shop the prime location every time, and every organization and facet of the university having the same messaging, that the Wolf Shop should be your first line of purchasing, your first look for what you could do, and that also when you invest there, the university and the students benefit.
And I think something unique about the Wolf Shop is we actually have a whole, just going back to sustainability, a whole sustainable section of toothbrushes, laundry detergent, laundry sheets, different types of notebooks and pencils that can be recycled after their use. And I think that's important for students to know as well. And that can go back to just advertising to students like, we need to be sustainable in what we do in our efforts. And the Wolf Shop actually offers a reasonable prices on these sustainable items that are offered, and this can actually be found near the residence hall. So even advertising that residential hall, Wolf Shop and where that's at is vital. And it's important for this Wolf Shop to be able to sustain itself, because otherwise we are looking at that conversation of informing students like, hey, scholarships can no longer be funded. We just can no longer do it.
Great. I'm going to throw you a curveball now, or maybe actually a snowball. It's been a long winter, hasn't it? I'm just kind of getting tired of this. We've had a lot of snow on the ground this year. We have a lot of students that live on campus. We have a lot of students that live close to campus. We also have a lot of students that live outside of the Reno-Sparks area that commute. We have some classes that only meet a couple times a week, and if they're canceled, it takes a serious chunk out of the syllabus. Should campus close more? Should it have more delayed starts? Should the expectation be that campus is open and please plan accordingly? What do you think?
I think that goes back to talking more with teachers and administrators. The university has a way of how they cancel classes. And it was mainly, and I try to inform students as best as possible, and maybe it's just a matter of educating students on the way they cancel classes. So they have individuals like in certain areas measuring snow and the time that it happens, and if it reaches a certain amount, then they decide to cancel class or they delay classes. Since I've been here at the university, they've actually never canceled class, they've only delayed it. But with that, I know it provides a lot of dangerous ways for students to get to campus. Students live in, the Sparks area, further out in Reno, and it just becomes too snowy for them to actually transport. And there are some difficult situations where they do get on the road. It's dangerous. And I think that goes back to talking with teachers, because sometimes in the messages that are like sent out by the administration is like, talk with teachers and try and plan accordingly. And I think it sometimes goes back on the teachers to, to accommodate towards their students. Because I've been informed where teachers are like, I gotta be to class, like so do you. And at the same time, like that's not always feasible for students. Sometimes they actually can't make it to class because their car's been snowed in, or the roads are just too dangerous, or they haven't been plowed yet. So I think it goes back to that and how to have that conversation of, if a teacher is punishing a student because they can't get to class, how does that go now?
I also think there's frustration as someone from the Reno community when I see Washoe County close or delay or something like that, but I'm still expected to come to the university. So maybe we do need to have a conversation about reevaluating. When is it too dangerous for students to be expected to come to campus? Because Washoe County has the same interest of protecting students, they're K through 12, but protecting students and making sure they're safe on their way to and from school. So if we need to have that conversation, why not talk with the Washoe County officials? How are they making their determination? Maybe we should adjust accordingly, because I know there's a lot of students that voiced a lot of complaints about having to come to campus, mostly because they come with their two-wheel drive cars and they don't know how to drive in the snow, but it's not something that we're obligating our students to do, and campus escort doesn't run during the day when classes are happening, so for some students, it's impossible for them to come to school, and maybe we should readdress how we're deciding snow days based on another really widely recognized group like Washoe County School Districts.
Great. Okay, well, I double checking to see if we have any questions from the audience, and seeing none, I will go ahead and move to just kind of our last question, which is more of a chance for you to provide any sort of wrap-up comments or statements you'd like to make about your goals for the next year.
Yeah. First, I want to say these questions were really good. Yeah, really good. I did not expect that. So I'm very happy with them, though. I hope that these questions are similar in the future, and that they're similar for future Senate debates, because these are the real questions that will actually be asked. These are real questions that I'm asked on a daily basis. So yeah, I just want to say I'm very thankful for that and for the election committee. And I hope this continues on with not how difficult, but just how specific they were to our institution, to our positions, and to this university. But just as a final closing, I really hope students go out to vote March 13th, so this coming week. I hope they come out to pack the polls. I'm very excited. If you have not seen the ad yet, it's very adorable. It works. And not only that, but I'm excited to serve all of the students to the best of my ability. I'm excited to serve alongside, especially Nicole Flangus. I think we have a great year ahead of us, filled with very passionate students, and that if they have a plan or a goal or an idea, we want to hear it. We want to hear what they have to say, because if it's, if it's not with the students, it's not for the students, and we want to work with those students here at the university. So again, my name is Anthony Martinez, and I hope to have you all out to vote this year, and again, that's March 13th.
And also, I guess I'll give the one closing thing that we give to all the clubs that we go out and visit as well. If there's something that you like on this campus, ASUN is the place for you. We have such a platform to do so many unique things, to provide services to students. But also, if there's something you don't like on this campus, that same platform is for you, to use, to make change, to have conversations. And so we want as many people to be part of the process. Maybe it's just being an active citizen and coming in all the time to our offices. Honestly, we want people barging in all the time telling us what's going on. But it also means getting involved with ASUN. Wow. We have over 70 plus positions. They're all paid except for our interns, but also our interns get so much experience. So we want so many people to be a part of it. And we really want to see ASUN have an entirely new group of voices, especially in the context of things changing on our campus climate with the climate survey. Those kind of things we're going to address in the next year. So if you've ever thought about it, be part of it. Be part of ASUN. It's honestly a really great opportunity to serve your community and make relationships with people on campus as well as beyond in the Reno community. So that's a big part, but I'm really excited to be running for vice president. I hope people see our goals and they hold us really accountable to those goals. We're trying to create accountability. So really excited for the next year. Don't forget to vote, and we're really excited to serve.
Well, I appreciate that on behalf of President Johnson and Provost Carmen, both of which wanted to be here tonight, but were unfortunately out of town. ASUN is a very important part of the shared governance commitment of this university, and we've had a great year this year and look forward to another great year next year. Thank you both for your service.
Thank you.